everybody.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
I am so excited for today.
Yes, the
Do you know
Valentine's romance
Yes.
edition of the
Valentine's
Marriage in the
edition.
Buff podcast.
And we have the most romantic couple we know on tonight.
The most romantic man in the world.
And they are going to share their story and hopefully a few fun, lovey antidotes. Because they're probably a million times more romantic than we are.
Than you are.
No, than we are.
Okay.
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 So introduce yourself, guys.
I'm Carol.
And I'm Gus. And we are married for 25 years.
Yay.
Yes.
Us too.
And
So-
go ahead.
No, so we met Carol and Gus. Last year we did a marriage conference at our church. Chris and I led that. And out of that, we started a small group. And one of the couples that were in a
For
small
couples.
group
A group of couples.
is Carol and Gus. And over the last year, we really had a chance to get to know them. And through that group and other groups and just doing life together.
Yeah. And honestly, I think of you guys more as family than
Absolutely.
our friends.
Ah, thanks.
I do. Because I feel like if we had a need at
Yeah.
1 a.m,
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
like you would get out of bed and
Oh, absolutely.
put
And
your,
we feel the same way about you guys as well. We had that conversation
Yeah.
already.
and we
Yeah.
would do anything.
Yeah.
So,
But in the process of that year, we led a Serve Day project. And Carol was on that team, and we went to breakfast before.
oh, yeah.
And number one, Carol has just these stories, like she just surprises you all the time, like that she was a stand-up comedian. But the
Yeah.
best part of that entire story was telling us about Gus waiting for her after a show.
Yeah.
And that really, it's like, wow.
And ever since then, there have been all these little romantic
Yeah,
stories.
it's just one after another.
But we're
after
not going to tell
another.
them. They're going to
No, they get to tell us. But like that was, I think that was the seed that was planted. It's like,
Yes.
wow, this is crazy. This guy is just amazing.
Well, you know, you say we're the most romantic couple, and I was thinking today as I was getting ready to come, and I said, maybe we don't fit that bill because I don't remember. I remember when we met. I do not remember the date we met, and I do not remember the day of our first date.
Well, it just evolved naturally. We started out as just getting to know each other, and we got to know each other in a group setting. And as we became more engaged, I think we both had a mutual attraction there, and that drew us to discover each other more.
After a
So it
while,
was-
initially we
a-
didn't.
Well, yeah, you're
You
right.
thought I was-
yeah, because it was a little bit of a oil and water type of mixture. there
Oh,
for
he
a
thought you were what?
Did you think I was a little?
while. Well, a little overbearing.
Oh,
And I thought he was a bit rigid.
I could not imagine how
absolutely.
anyone would ever think either of those.
Yeah.
but
yeah.
you say oil and water, but you know, opposites attract.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah, we
Very
are
much.
we are literally polar opposites in most ways. And it's funny because I guess you breed that too, because our girls are just, if you can be 4 opposite, that's our girls.
Yeah.
So, you know, they went from 2 of us to 4 of them, and it's just like they just keep. But on the other side of that, you know, with us, we complement each other in those things. It's like what I'm bad at, she's good at. What she's good at, I'm bad at for the most part. And the girls, they all have their thing. They all have their separate thing.
Well,
And when it comes down to it, like they may fight like crazy between one another,
Yeah.
but man, don't mess with one of them because you got
Yeah.
them all.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a lot of families, but the whole opposite thing, people say opposites attract or whatever, but I've also heard them say they're different pieces of a puzzle that fit together. So
Oh,
when
that's a good
Kevin
analogy.
Said, yeah,
That's
I
a great
loved
way to
that.
put it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Complementing each other. I always think of the puzzle pieces
Yeah.
because we're going to be different puzzle pieces, but we need both of them together. So
Yeah.
I like
Yes.
that.
Ruth
So-
Graham, Billy Graham's wife, said that her and Billy were so different. And they're like, did that bother you? And you said, no, it'd be so boring if you were the same, you know? So
It
you
really
know.
would be. It would be boring.
All right, so you started off as oil and water.
Yeah, we did.
And how did that change?
Well, both of us have a ability to listen, and we are very respectful to each other, obviously, but also to other people, because that's just a trait that we have. Is that we will approach things a little differently in the way that we analyze and interpret events and information, and make a path to go to proceed. But at least we have, we've always had a very basic Christian sense of being respectful and being able to listen. And then we would kind of state our positions, and lots of times we would not be, we'd look at the same thing and have some different analysis of it. And
Different outlook.
yes.
Yeah, I think we were part of the same group of people, and we kind of traveled in a pack, and we did a lot of life together in this group. And one time we went to a lecture, and it was for single people, and it was on meeting single people, and it was at Borders Bookstore, I remember.
Yeah. That's
And I
kinda
was
dating
sitting up
us.
in the front with some of my girlfriends, and Gus was sitting in the back. And this woman was talking, and then she did a Q&A. And Gus raised his hand, and he made this big statement about, as only Gus can do. I don't know how you can really meet women, because some women say they can ask you one question and they know if you're for them or not, and they don't even give you the time of day if you don't answer it right. And we were all laughing up in front, because I know exactly what he's talking about, because I made the statement.
See?
And the statement was, when I would meet someone, I would ask them, are you the same person you were 5 years ago? And if they said yes, I was done. Because if you can't grow yourself as a person, and you always have to continue to grow as a person, then you're not going to be able to grow in a relationship.
That's good.
Yeah, that is.
So afterward, I sought Gus out and explained to him what I meant. And because he is a good listener, that changed. He understood. He acknowledged it, and then that's the part where we started to draw together.
Nice.
Just like us, honey.
No. Gus, did you mean her when you were saying that?
Yes.
Yes.
That was a
very much
gutsy
so.
move to stand up.
But he didn't realize it was me who said it.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Nice.
He didn't know it was. He didn't remember that it was me. But that stuck in his craw for a while.
So it upset him enough. You got
Yeah.
you got under his skin.
I did.
She did. Absolutely.
Okay. So what happened next?
Well, we actually talked it out to understand each of our positions. And once she explained how she was thinking about it, it actually made a lot of good sense, because that's the one constant in life, is that things change.
Yes.
True.
And you have to find a path that allows you to be you while you're doing that change.
Yeah.
So it's what makes life interesting, and it can make it difficult at times.
And it's a good point. If we don't change,
Right.
We're stuck.
right. And if you choose not to change, you're still making a choice. So it's not like you're just being passive.
Yeah.
You're still making that choice.
Yes.
And after that incident, we really became friends. We were acquaintances up until that point, and then we became friends, and we used to talk frequently. And Gus was in the computer business at the time, and I was about to buy a computer, which will tell you how long ago that was.
Hold on. Gus was in the computer business? Hold on. Gus is
Still
a
the hottest
teacher.
family has.
Gus is a
We
teacher.
are onions. We have Gus's
Larry.
brother owner.
I don't even know. Like, we have a comedian who was also a nurse who...
No, I was a respiratory therapist.
Okay, a respiratory therapist, and a teacher who is a computer guy, and...
Who has a double degree in engineering and economics.
Yeah. I mean, I know Gus is smart. He's
I mean, that's
He is
just...
smart, yeah.
Wow, okay.
all right. Proceed.
So we would chat for a long time, and I remember one time it was a Saturday, and we were doing two different groups of people were doing different things. And I remember coming home, and those were the days of answering machines.
Right.
And my machine was blinking. And I remember coming in the door and seeing that machine blinking. And my first thought was, I hope that's a message from Gus.
Oh, was it?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes, there was. There was. And then we started to do things together. And but when we met, Gus had never been married before. I had been married and divorced for almost 15 years, and I had 2 children, and my youngest child had just gone off to college.
So you had a little bit of freedom.
So I was ready to hit the highway. I was not
Yeah,
responsible for anyone because I was
Yes.
divorced when my kids were 4 and 7.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Yeah.
So I was ready, and
very
within 2
entrenched,
weeks.
individually making decisions and
yeah. I mean, that's got to be
being
like
forced to do that.
Yeah.
yeah, that's
And
got to
not-
be
not
like
easy.
when it goes off to college. That's got to be like just that sigh of relief and like okay,
Yeah.
Yes.
now I can live and I don't
Yes.
have to worry as much and all this stuff. So you're not like, oh, let me get a relationship here because I'm bored. You know what I mean?
No.
Like all those things you couldn't do. It's
The
like,
last, that's the last thing I was
So-
looking for was somebody who was going to say, "What's for dinner?"
Yeah, but that's what I was going to say. What was Gus looking for? Somebody to ask what's for dinner?
No, Gus thought
Yeah.
that he needed to be married and have a family because he's the firstborn son of an immigrant Greek family.
Yes, I'm actually first generation. I was born in Thessalonica, Greece, which today has been shortened to just Salonika. And I emigrated to this country with my parents when I was about 1.5 years, 2 years old, somewhere in
okay.
that time frame. So I grew up being able to speak Greek. I've pretty much lost that, but I can still comprehend at a lower level. But I could, if I went back to Greece, I could function in doing stuff. So
And
that's interesting.
definitely fully entrenched in that culture. Like,
Yes.
like
Oh, yes,
brought up
very
in that
much so.
culture.
And you carry on the family name, and he was the firstborn son. But in that time too, the firstborn son would stay unmarried until all the other siblings were married.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes, and then if any other siblings were not married, then you took care of your parents and whatever sibling were not married.
really?
Yeah, that was kind of a regional type thing because, like, my parents were from like northern Greece, and so Greece, as well as every country, is very regional. So
Maybe not
Different
though.
parts.
Maybe they just didn't want you to get married and just told you that story.
That was his mom. His mom's like,
His
hey.
mom, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah.
So was it time to get married, or did you still have a sibling that wasn't? Did you buck the system?
well,
bit.
yeah, I did. By this time, my father had passed away,
Okay.
and I was still living at home.
You had just decided though
Yeah.
it was time for you to get
Yes,
married.
yes. I mean, I had an apartment in Buffalo because that's where my work was at that time, and I would go back quite a bit, but I was spending more and more time in Buffalo, becoming more of a full-time resident and trying to establish.
Well, you had a
life
home.
there.
You bought a house too.
Yeah, but that was fairly recent. That I didn't have that house that long when I met you. It was like 3-4 years, 5 years.
5. 5. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Well,
So did your mom want you to get married?
oh, that's
Why
a
are you asking a
story.
question you know the answer to?
I knew.
I wish I still had the list.
I knew
I-
you can share that because I don't think everyone knows that. But I don't think it'll be a surprise to anyone here that I knew that she didn't want Gus to get married to Carol,
Yes, that's very.
but asking Gus if she wanted him married to someone
Oh, yes, very much so.
Okay. See?
Very much so.
Yes, just not me.
Okay. Yeah. And what happened? What list were you referring
They actually physically gave him a list, and boy, do I wish I'd saved it.
Yeah.
The top of the list was I wasn't Greek.
Yeah.
So these are reasons.
These
not
are reasons that I
marry
was not
Carol?
an acceptable spouse.
Okay.
I was not Greek. But it was kind of good that I was Italian because she stereotyped me, so she was afraid I would put out a hit on her. Yeah, I wasn't Greek.
Sicilian, right? Sicilian.
I had been married before. I already had children. I was too old to have more children. Those were like the top 4.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think there was a list of like 10 or 12 things that
Yeah.
they cooked up.
Yeah.
10
It
or
was
12.
my mother and my older sister, who's young. I'm the oldest of the 4, but Sylvia's the older sister.
Now, see,
And she's the one that was very anti-Carol, and that was a shame.
did you ever get a list from me? But you would have if we had. I mean, I can see that. I see that as like just that like traditional, like, oh, no.
Yeah.
Like he's not Polish.
Well-
you know what I mean? I can see that.
So
You know?
I understand a lot of what Gus is saying
Yeah.
because my parents were the first generation here. My grandparents, like my grandfather grew up in Poland, and then all of Sloan at that time where they all grew up was very, very heavy neighborhood family. They were the first people there when it was just fields. They built that land. They very Polish, keeping the tradition.
Yes.
All still, when I was young, speaking Polish in the house. So I mean, Catholic traditional. So I do understand.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I can imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not. I mean, that's not a big stretch. You know,
And
No, it really
for someone
wasn't.
that first generation stuff like that, I can see it's like, whoa, and I think like you said that regional thing. I think even if you're from another region, it'd be like, hold on, that's different. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
That
Oh,
it's
very much so.
very
because you
Traditional.
know that if, like, for example, I bet Gus, and I don't know this, but I bet he's 100% Greek. Like, I bet if we did the DNA test on him, it would be only that one region,
Yes.
which for me, we did a DNA test, and I am only this one region in Poland. Like, because you just married alike. So it is very different. So I do understand that. And you're a mutt. I mean, I get it.
not a mud.
You're a combination of a million different things. So it's very different for you coming into,
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
like, I get it.
Yeah, no, I do.
So,
Now, Carol, though, like you're Italian,
I'm more Irish than Italian,
Oh,
but
okay.
yes.
So there is.
Irish and
Okay.
Italian, no.
so okay.
And
All right.
I come from a family, my grandparents were all born in different countries,
Okay.
but we were a family of who emigrated and assimilated.
Yeah,
Like we,
you didn't. Yes, I get it. So yeah, it's totally
other
different.
than celebrating St. Patrick's Day for a week, you
Right.
know, we,
So different, totally different.
not a
then.
day,
Yeah.
it's a
it's
season.
not a culture.
Yeah.
It's
So yeah, and I will say like with us, like I remember like what is all this stuff? You got all that. You got to do this, and you got to like.
Oh, the basket cities, blessing the
God
basket.
bless.
the whole
And
nine
what is
yards,
that?
yeah.
What is that thing that used to be at your aunt and uncle's house in Kenmore? The fishes thing, the feast of
Christmas
the.
Eve.
Oh, that was the most. I'm like, how many big time
There's-
ways
there's a
can
lot
you
of
have?
It's interesting because almost every culture does that on Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
Listen,
Yeah,
we don't
I
do
know
that in Virginia.
Italians.
We do
Yeah.
not do that in Virginia.
You guys, right? Greek or no?
Traditionally, the Greeks don't. They do fish on Christmas Eve.
Yeah, they will. My family, not so much. They celebrated more. Well, in the Greek Orthodox faith, you didn't. I mean, the 25th was a big celebration. They had a midnight. That's Easter, so I'm getting them mixed up. But that was not
It was the Epiphany,
the
little
the
Christmas.
Christmas.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what the
you celebrate.
Polish
Yeah.
call it little
like
Christmas.
Little
but
Christmas,
yeah.
the
Yeah.
Epiphany.
Yeah, it
That's
was-
when
it
you
was
guys celebrate
flipped.
Christmas.
Yep.
in terms of importance.
And ours wasn't flip, but they did.
Yeah, that was
acknowledge
still
it, for
like,
sure.
but
Yeah.
with the older generation, that was a big, huge. I'm like, what are you talking
Yeah.
about? Christmas
They didn't
is
want
done.
they didn't want you to touch the decorations.
Yeah.
They didn't
That's
want you
it
to touch
until
anything
afterward,
after.
right.
Yeah, there's
Yep.
a whole There's a lot more, but we're going on a tangent, so
There we go.
go ahead. So anyway, I'm guessing you you both ignored the list.
We did.
Well, it was really hurtful. So
Yeah.
that was not good that
it caused
they
a
would
rift.
think like that.
It literally caused a rift that unfortunately never really healed with his mom, and it's unfortunate because my mother died when I was 24. So I would have loved
To have that relationship.
to have that relationship.
Yeah, and I feel like my mother lost so much on not getting close to Carol because she could have taught Carol a lot of the traditional Greek cooking that Carol did on her own.
Yeah.
Picked up, like she makes great pita and all that type of stuff, baklava, and other specialty cookies and stuff. But
There
my
was
mother,
just never that relationship.
yeah, although later in life my mother did have some kind of health event, and I remember Carol kind of taking over, just kind of almost like not physically slapping her, but just kind of stopping, getting the attention and laying out a course of action to take. And it was at that time that my mother at least realized how much Carol loved me.
Yeah.
And so at least at that point she respected Carol.
No.
Unfortunately, I don't know that I could ever say that she really loved Carol like she should have.
Yeah.
But she at least respected Carol as someone that could stay calm in a crisis and solve something. And the odd thing about that is I don't even remember what the crisis was.
Right.
I just remember that Carol handled it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did the relationship that your mom had or lack of relationship that caused a rift, did it ever come between the two of you?
Initially,
Yeah,
there was
initially.
there was a lot of tug of war kind of when we first got married. Gus's mother tried to pull him in that direction, back in that direction. She obviously didn't understand that when a man marries, he cleaves to his wife.
Yes.
She did not embrace that principle.
Yeah.
But Gus, fortunately, it did not take him long to realize
Oh, okay.
what was going on, and it did initially the first year or two, but then it went away because it was obvious that Gus was always going to choose me, and that was a sad thing because I loved Gus so much, I still do, that you would think that if your husband is or your son is happy,
Right.
Yeah.
that they've but that was anyway that was a whole different
Yeah. But Gus, real quick, and you can move on after that, but real last question on this topic. What advice would you have? Because we hear a lot.
Yeah,
of
that's what I'm thinking.
young
We were just talking to
couples,
people yesterday about the same thing.
Same thing. That they're, when there is a parent or a mom or whomever that is trying to come between the two and is causing friction in a marriage, what advice do you have for a young couple who might be going through that in those early years, since you guys seem to have really overcome that?
Oh, very much so. It's kind of funny and ironic, is that the person that you are, your parents helped shape. Hopefully in a positive way, in that they were giving you good moral upbringing and teaching you right from wrong, and to be honest and to be an upstanding person. So it's ironic that your parents, or in my case, my mother, chose to kind of ignore all those lessons and become someone that was against that. And you have to be yourself, and you have to know what it is that you want, and then you have to go after it.
Yeah. And it's funny, like with us, like we have 4 girls, and I get it. I mean, I get it.
But it's not always easy for you, right?
No,
Like,
it's
you
not
get
because
the
I get the other side
side.
of it. So it really is. It's like a tightrope you walk as a parent. And like with your mom, I can imagine the longer that relationship, the harder to let go. You know what I mean? For her,
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
you were
when we
always
got
here.
married,
You were,
she didn't even look at us. She sat
Yeah.
in church and looked the other
Yeah.
way.
yeah. No,
At the reception, she sat with her back to us,
Oh my gosh.
facing the corner.
Aw.
Yeah.
But yeah,
That was hard.
that is something that we all have to learn. The leaving, like you said, the leave and cleave, and that's the way. In a lot of people, they're like, "Oh, you're coming into the family." Not really. You're creating
A new family.
a
Right.
new family.
Yes.
And in that doesn't mean you're leaving everything behind, but you need time to mold that and incubate it and figure it out, and then bring this family and this family
Yeah.
at a reasonable pace. It's not like, oh, and I, you know, like holidays, that's one of the biggest questions we get, like holidays. It's so bad because my mom wants me here, my dad, especially if like the
struggle.
divorces
Yeah.
and stuff today, you can literally have 4 places that you are expected to be, at least 4. And it's like in your
Especially
own
when you
house.
get
And
kids,
if you
when
got
you have
kids,
kids,
they all
yeah.
want to see. That's just, it's unfair, you know, to the new
Yeah.
For us to
family,
do
to the
that to
husband
Well,
and wife.
the upside of all the drama with his mother-in-law is I'm a fabulous mother-in-law.
Oh.
Our
You know
daughter,
what not to do.
Yeah.
our daughter-in-law
So everything
loves
can
us.
be a
So
Yeah.
it has made us, actually has taught us the lesson of being a good in-law. I do not interfere. I do not.
yes.
See, that's good. So,
I love that.
See, God uses all things for good,
He
even when we don't
Absolutely.
understand it.
Does. He does.
And I do love what you said about the irony, because I didn't really think about that. Like, this is the person that we've spent our whole
Yeah.
life learning from and getting good values from,
Yeah.
and now
They-
all
they
of a sudden
help
it's a
mold us.
opposite
They
message.
help make us who we are.
Yeah.
And you would expect that they'd
Yeah.
want you to continue in that positive.
Yeah, that's the end goal. You know, like
Yeah.
when they're little, it's like, okay, you're gonna grow up, you're gonna get a job, you're gonna have a career, you're gonna have
Yeah.
kids, you're married, and but then
Yes.
it's you still don't want to let
Yeah.
go. You know,
No.
It's like she failed the final exam for
Yeah.
a parent.
yeah,
Is that
the let go.
yes.
That's a great way to put it.
yeah,
Yeah.
They've spent all this time helping to form you, helping to train you to stand on your own 2 feet in life, and then they don't let you go.
that's good.
Yeah. That's
Honey, I'm
great.
the Italian and you're waving your hands
I
all
know.
over.
I love it. No, you know what? When Gus gets like
He
Passionate.
gets
spicy
animated.
about
Passionate.
something, that
his
happens.
hands go, yes.
Yeah.
And I love it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
his hands
like-
always go.
I get extra energy, and I gotta.
Ready.
That's awesome.
All right. So tell us about some of the stuff he did in the.
Yeah, I love
Romantic
the. I mean
years.
that the comedy story. That
Oh,
like
yeah,
I'll never
you love
forget
that
that. I
story.
literally.
Yeah, and that, I mean, really, it's a great story. And I love the fact that that's our story, that
Yeah.
that's how that all came about. Do you want me to tell that?
Yeah,
Kind of-
yeah.
That's amazing.
I was going to perform. We had been friends, and we had been growing closer and closer. And we decided that even though Gus really wanted a family, and I had just got my family
Out the door.
settled out the door, sort of in college, that we were going to see what would happen. Just gonna let it go. So I was going to perform stand-up comedy in a club for the first time.
Mexican Joe's.
The building's it's torn down now.
Yeah.
I love
So-
that he remembers the name.
Yeah, I know. But neither of us remember the day we went on our first date.
He won
No.
all of us. That's okay.
Because it seemed like such a logical daily
Yeah, it was
occurrence.
a
It
seamless
like,
thing. So I had this dream that I walked into this club and there was no one in the club, but there was a big horseshoe-shaped bar in the center of the place, and there was just a bartender. And I walked into the club and walked all the way around to the side and stood there, and I was just waiting, and I was so nervous because I'd never done it before, and my knees were knocking. And people started to come in, and in that dream, I remember feeling so nervous, and all of a sudden, somebody just held my hand. Somebody just took my hand. And I looked, and it was Gus. And that's kind of all I remember about the dream. So the next day, I go to do my stand-up comedy in this club. I'd never been there before. I walked into the club, and it was strangely familiar. And there was a big horseshoe-shaped bar with just a bartender. I was the first person in the club. And I walked around, and as I'm walking around the bar, I was thinking, this is the club in my dreams. This is
Crazy.
exactly in my dreams. So then people started about a few minutes later, people started to come in. And a lot of people were coming in because it was an open mic night, and there were about 6 comics who
there
were
was a
going
lot.
to be performing, and I had some friends coming, and so people were coming in, and I was standing there, and my knees started to knock. And if you've ever had knees knock, it's such a distinctive thing. It's like your kneecap is jumping up and down. It's like a spasm. And it's only happened to me 3 times in my life, once in a dream. Then that night, my knees were knocking. And I was standing there, I was like telling myself, just breathe, just breathe. And then all of a sudden, someone hit my hand. And I looked, and it was Gus. He didn't say a word to me. He just stood there holding my hand until they called me up on stage. I went up on stage. I did my routine, and I was successful. And people were clapping, and some of my friends were there, and they're, come on, have a drink. And they turned to turn to the bar, and I was just looking, and there was a space, and in between that space, I saw Gus. And he was standing right where he left me, and he was just looking at me with a look on his face, and I thought to myself, I've waited my entire life to have someone look at me like that. And I just knew. I just knew at that point that this was most likely the person for me.
Yeah.
I love that story.
I know. But then he broke up with me a little bit later.
We didn't hear this part.
No, you didn't.
Did you have a bad act? And he was like, oh,
No.
No.
He broke up with me because of the list.
Oh.
Because his
Yeah.
family,
Yeah.
and what they did was they sent his youngest sister, who he's really close to, sent her in to work on him. And then she convinced him, well, you really want to have a family. You like kids. You really want to have children. And he broke up with me.
Wow.
I was heartbroken. Well, he didn't really break up with me. He said, let's take a week off.
Well, pretty close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Not one of my better moments in life.
what
Bad
got you?
choice.
What got you over because it seems like you did want a family. She's repeated that many, many times. So you don't have a child
No.
of your own, although I feel like
Oh,
you
yeah.
all have a big family, a very robust,
very much
loving
so.
family
We did.
with grandkids. And, I mean, they're yours. But how did you reconcile that? What happened?
My grand gesture.
She offered to have a family.
Really?
I was heartbroken. I was
Okay.
just heartbroken. And it was about a week later, and he had told me, I need to explore this. I need to, see if I really, I should have a family. And okay, that's fine. So I was heartbroken. So a few days later, I woke up about 4:00 in the morning, and I thought, I've raised two kids who are in college. I've never had to bail them out of jail. I've done it pretty much myself, so I must do something right. So why am I afraid to do it again?
Okay.
So it was about 6:00 in the morning, and I drove to Gus's house. And Gus was a heavy sleeper.
Oh, yeah.
So I was banging on his door. I'm sure all the neighbors knew. So I was knocking on his door. Finally, he opened the door, and I told him. We sat down, and I said, you know what? If that's really important to you, then we'll do that. We'll have a child together.
Wow.
That's amazing.
And you took her to the courthouse, and the rest is history. No.
We got married. That was probably in June, end of
Yeah.
June. We were married in October.
Oh, wow. Okay. So it
So
was fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was, but we had gone through the thing because I had my tubes tied
Oh, okay.
and wasn't planning on any more children. But we went through all the, the
Fertility
appointments
tests to
and
see
stuff,
what had
to
be
see if
done
we could do that.
Carol, and then we also had to check to see if I'm not shooting blanks or something. So I mean, it's kinda-
Okay.
And I was,
So we did that.
Yeah, we were 44 years old at the
Right.
time.
Yeah.
So then your chances of
yeah.
But
Down syndrome
not
and
heard
stuff.
of. Like
Sure.
people do have
yes, they do.
kids in their
So
40s.
they actually they tested my eggs for the, my age. Unfortunately, they were a few years younger than mine actually were. I know. I'm very proud of that. I may look old, but I have young eggs.
There you go.
And we were going to do that. And as we were getting closer to that prospect, something happened at work. Gus worked with his brother, and then a third party came in, and then the business dissolved.
Okay.
So then financially, we couldn't, it put a hold on things
Yeah,
for us.
that's expensive stuff.
And
Yeah.
then as that hold came on, fortunately, two things happened. That happened, and my niece Lauren needed a lot of care because her parents worked evenings, and you guys know Lauren.
Yes.
And anybody who goes to Life Church knows Lauren. She's fabulous. So we spent almost every weekend with her. She was like our child, and she was just a toddler at the time. So she kind of took the place of that, of having that child. And then Gus later confessed that it wasn't so much him wanting to have a child, although he loved children, but he just didn't think that he probably should have had children. He just didn't feel like he was.
I didn't want to disappoint a child or Carol. And, at that time, I'm 45. I don't know, 46 at that
45, 46, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm just thinking of the enormity of it. And I'm
big.
saying that, hey, there's a big chance that I would not be the best parent. And I thought that was not the road to go down and still have a loving marriage with Carol.
Yeah.
Because if the marriage had failed, I think it would have destroyed me. And that, well, she doesn't know this because this is something that I've kind of just realized recently, and that you know how you have to make choices in life,
Yeah.
and for me to go the unknown path of being a father and continuing on the path of being a good husband and knowing that the two might not go, I said, I'm going down the path of being a good husband.
That's
And I
amazing.
made a conscious decision on that. And I mean, I always loved children. I helped my sister when she was growing up, raising her two kids. My brother had 3 children, so I was always pretty reasonable uncle. Lauren is almost like a daughter.
Yeah.
She
Caitlin-
turned, she turned out pretty good. I mean,
Yeah, Caitlin, my daughter Kate and Gus are very close. And
Yeah.
and even Matthew.
Yeah. But even like with Kate, when she had some problems later on, I was there and willing to help her
yeah.
get
Yeah.
through that time. So I mean, as not technically being a father, I feel that I've earned my father's stripes
Yeah,
Absolutely.
because
absolutely.
I have
Yeah.
been there to help a child succeed.
Absolutely.
And
It's very important.
I mean, just what you said is such a testament of love. Like
Both
didn't
ways,
that-
though. Both ways. Like, if you think about, Gus to begin with the letter and all that stuff, but then being there and her realizing, okay, this is what I've been waiting for. And then with that break or whatever, and Carol just realizing, you know what? It's about us. It's not just about my want or my feeling. And this, I'm going to, do what I need, whatever it is.
Sacrifice.
And then-
it's sacrificing for each other.
And then again with Gus coming right back the same way, it's
And
like you
sacrificing.
guys, you were,
Yeah.
you've always done that. You've always, like, I think it was great where you started, oh, you're both good listeners and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's one thing to be a good listener and hear what somebody's saying, but when you take that and you think about it and you apply logic and analyze it, and you're like, okay, well, this is really important to them. How can I help meet that need? How can I love them well? And I mean, we're talking about 25 years ago, and we get to see you today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, 25 years ago, you were doing the exact same thing. You were loving well, like Gus, you know, to say, oh, you know what, I really did think, and I thought, but you know, this is more important. I want to make sure
It's that whole
my
putting your
marriage-
spouse before yourself.
Absolutely.
I mean, in both of those decisions, they each put their spouse before themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it took him years to be able to verbalize that.
Yeah.
Well, that was
Years.
beautiful.
That's huge,
I mean,
yeah.
that was so beautiful.
He's always been intentional. I mean, even I told you guys a story about when I first went to Gus's house.
Oh,
That's-
tell
And
the
at first,
story.
I knew he'd owned this house for almost 5 years.
Just before you do, I just need to say this is arguably one of the most romantic gestures that many people have heard.
And let me add to that, the thought that just went into the entire thing
well, don't talk
beforehand,
Tell anything yet?
that's love.
Okay. All right, tell the story.
So Gus had bought this house, and it's a nice little house. And I pulled up the first time, brick, cute little house.
It was supposed to be a starter house.
Yeah, it was a starter.
Just getting started. See,
Yeah.
it's fourth quarter, just getting started.
Just getting started.
I love your house.
So I do too. So I went in and I was like, good Lord, this man's living like a dirty college student. I mean, he had a couple of chairs that he got from his uncle, and he had a conference
ficus plant something.
conference table in the dining room where a dining room table is now with some big like ficus plants and a yucca plant or something on it, and he had another conference table with something else on it in the kitchen, and I was like, Gus, why don't you have you're 44-year-old man. Why don't you have furniture? You know, is there a reason? And at that point, I'm thinking, I need to think here.
Wait, did he have the wall of mirrors still there?
Oh yeah, that was part, that's part of the house.
in. Yeah,
So the mirror, that could add to the bachelor look of the place.
A little disco ball. Would be,
Anyway,
just saying.
so, but I asked him. I said, why didn't you? Why don't you have furniture?
decorate. Yeah.
He said, because I knew I wanted to get married. I knew I wanted to have a wife. And I thought my wife would want to furnish the house the way she would want to furnish it. So I wanted to make her comfortable and let her furnish the house.
And that was enough right there to think, wow, who thinks through all this? But it gets better. The story goes on.
So when we first started, well, let me back up 1 second. When we were getting married, the priest was in the Orthodox Church, and the priest was telling me that Gus was a catch because he was from the mainland in Greek. Apparently, you're a better Greek if you're from the mainland as opposed to the islands.
Who would have known?
I didn't know.
No?
So, here I'm getting this great, he's telling me I'm getting this great guy. And I said, well, I'm a catch too because I own all my own power tools
Oh,
And
and knew how to use them.
I got to say something to help build that up.
okay.
Is that Carol was a very devout Roman Catholic. She was like the Parents' Council president
Oh,
of St. Philip's, that
Yeah.
big church down there in Lawson.
okay.
So we end up going to the little tiny Greek church right next.
Yes, I converted to Orthodox.
Yes.
Orthodoxy for him.
Big
So we
thing.
Wow.
because it was important for me and for Gus to get married in the church. I wanted to get married in the eyes
And-
of God.
You were Irish Catholic.
Yes, I was.
So that's almost as bad as Polish Catholic.
yes, and that
Pretty
was,
similar in that.
and I was only out of 37 grandchildren. Because none of the 10 children were ever divorced. But out of the 37 grandchildren, there were only 3 of us who were divorced.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So
go ahead. We
So
didn't
yeah,
know
so
that.
so we did that. So we got married,
In the little Greek church.
In Little Greek Church.
With your catch from the mainland.
With my catch from the mainland, had our reception.
Actually, it was probably more of a Russian Orthodox church than a Greek church.
All right, that's apples and apples.
we wouldn't know the difference.
Nobody would know.
You could have.
Yeah. Nobody would know. Different neighborhood. That's it.
Yeah.
So we got married and we were, we merged our household. Let me say merged. We threw his stuff out and brought my stuff in.
Which was quite easy.
Nice.
So
Garbage day is.
Yeah, literally out the door. So then
his lawn chairs went to the lawn.
Yeah. No, they were actually nice chairs, but they were old chairs. So I was cooking. I do all the cooking and I decided that ahead of time. That was a decision that I made solely on my own based on what he told me he liked for breakfast, which was pancakes with onions in them, with melted provolone cheese on top, and then syrup. Yes.
Maple syrup.
Wait, is that real?
Yes.
And they're not like potato pancakes. They're like.
Oh, no.
They're
Thank
breakfast.
God you have moved up to biscuits and gravy, Gus.
Do you still eat that?
No, I've never once made it for him in 25 years. The only other person who's made it for him is his mother or his sister.
I bet Jack would eat that.
I don't know.
Not anymore. I bet Jack might have eaten
No.
that at one point.
He eats literally cans of stuff, and he doesn't even take it out of the can. He just mixes
Okay,
it.
tangent.
Bad
Go
stuff.
ahead.
So as I was cooking, I would cook and I would get annoyed because simple things like measuring cups, or mixing bowls were up high. And I'm sitting here, so I'm not tall. I always describe myself as hobbit height with T-Rex arms. That's a
Which
short
Caitlin gave her that moniker.
Yeah,
Nice,
it's short arms. So I would get, Gus, I can't reach these. Why? And always put them up there. And finally, he said, after grousing for a few months, he said, because then you asked me to help you. So you don't have to do it all by yourself.
Yeah.
And there is the most romantic, thoughtful man in the world.
He did. He was very intentional with the way he placed things and would put things in, because our pantry also doubles as the stairs that would go up to our attic.
Oh, okay.
So we use it as a pantry because we never have to go up in the attic.
Right.
Until we had to fix the skylight that Gus decided he wanted and just cut a hole in the roof randomly. But
Not
that's
a
another
good
story.
idea if you're not that handy.
Another story.
You just cut it. Okay.
Yeah. So, but then too, he would put things up in the back that I'd use frequently. So then he would stand when I would cook or bake, and he'd stand near the pantry and just say, "Just tell me what you want, and I'll get it for you." So I would be cooking or baking, and I'd say baking powder or breadcrumbs, or he'd get it, I'd use it, and he'd stand there and put it right back for me. And he does that to this day.
What a patient man.
Yes. And I do have a question, though. As in today and every other day of my life, I can never find the spices I need because you always put them away. Are you doing it so that you will come in the kitchen with me and help me? Is this?
Yes, Kevin. It's so that you will need me.
Are you mocking me?
Man, I know. I never thought of that. I'm just like, literally, every time I'm cooking,
I'll take
I
that
cannot
credit,
find
but I
something.
think he knows that was not my
Yeah,
plan.
I think she was just putting it away, but I
Okay.
can't find anything either.
We'll
was
get
actually
off
the-
this tangent, but I will tell you right now what the real reason of all of that is. The real reason is that men, and in my experience with him, don't really see things that can be right
Yeah.
there.
That's
Children do not
So-
either, in my defense.
oh,
I do
Can
that.
open
Oh my God.
the door and say, "Where's the ketchup?" And
Yes,
I'll
yes.
be like,
Right there.
second shelf to the right.
Gus will open up the refrigerator and immediately be struck blind.
Yeah, I don't
He can't
understand.
find a thing.
And the spice cabinet.
Spice cabinet's horrible. I can never.
Well, I have my spices on a dolly.
So
I have a
do
shelf
I.
above
You
my
don't even know.
stove.
We got drawers that
I
slide
have
out. We got
drawers,
a
and
lazy
there's-
Susan thing.
It's
They're on the
beautiful.
counter. They're everywhere.
Ah,
Oh, well, they're on
Except for
the
the
counter. 'cause
one I
he leaves-
need.
He leaves them on the counter and doesn't put them back. So then all of a sudden there's like 30 on the counter, and I'm like, these don't all belong here. But anyway,
I have the big pepper,
so
so I
it's
can
not
find it.
that I have deliberately hidden spices from you. It's just that you
I
can't
thought you were
read
romantic for a minute.
the
I literally, I'm
garlic
like,
powder.
it was like an epiphany. I never thought of this. I'm like,
Okay.
you're romantic, honey.
No, he's very Gus is very intentional. He's
Yes.
always been very.
That's all.
He is romantic. I just don't. He was when we were first married. We had been married a couple months, and he and his brother still had the computer business, and they had a contract in Connecticut that they had to do. So for about 3 weeks, I think he worked out of town from Monday to Friday. And the first time he went out of town, he was so cute. He came home. He told her he jumped out of the car. His brother didn't even put the car in park, pretty much. Jumped out of the car and told his brother, "I'll get my suitcase tomorrow." He was so excited to come home.
Aww.
Isn't that the best? And he got me a snowplow service that year.
Ooh.
Because he didn't want me to ever have to shovel. Aww. And we still have the same snowplow guy. For 25
See?
years, we've
That's
had the
good.
same guy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, he must
But he
be
was
good.
happy. He's like, good guy.
Yeah.
Tell your
But
friends.
he was so cute. He just couldn't wait to come home.
And I think that's it. Like, literally, almost every time we're together, which is a lot,
Yeah.
like, we hear another story. We hear another thing.
Yeah, I
and it's
love
just
that.
like, you know, and when you told that story of the cabinets the other day at our
Everyone
group,
loved
we're all just looking at each other like, what?
Who is
Like,
this man?
literally, how, like, we struggle. We can't.
Oh, yeah. And then the barbershop
No.
quartet on top of it was
Yeah,
all
Yeah,
over.
that's a
tell
good-
that
yeah.
one. Tell that one.
One year for Valentine's Day, probably about 20 years ago now. Yeah, it was 20 years ago because it was right after my 50th birthday. Gus sent a barbershop quartet to my office to have them sing our song.
Love that.
So 4 men in tuxedos showed up in my office and sang to me.
And what is your song?
It had to be you.
Of course. But you didn't get to see the barbershop quartet.
Oh no, because it was right
Yeah.
to her workplace, and I didn't work where she worked.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I didn't.
That's awesome.
You know what I always think though, Gus? I always, when you're talking or when you're looking at Carol and you can tell you adore her. And when she talks and you hang on her words and everything, I always feel like there is nothing more important to you than her other than God.
Yeah.
But like when she's baking, there's nowhere else you want to be.
Absolutely. I mean, she does let me do a little bit of sous chefing for her.
Oh, that's nice of you.
Yeah. Okay.
Gus, clean that up.
I keep him engaged. He does. But you know, Gus, here's another great story, though. When we go to Chicago to my cousins, to Michael's grandmother, and we go for Thanksgiving, if we go a day ahead of time, Jeannie and I are busy preparing, and Gus loves that because he would hear stories that, I don't think to tell him, and he loves it. He will just sit there and hang on every story, and then he'll start washing dishes just so that he can be with us and participating and hear what we have to talk about. Because we always, talk about when we were kids or our parents. And that's how he's learned all the family stories and by being there and just,
And being a good listener.
Yeah. And I think that's like Kristen just said, like, yeah, we see that. We see.
Yeah.
And then, listening to you today and before and stuff, it's like, that's the look you saw on stage.
yep,
Yeah, that's the look.
yeah.
That's good.
that's a look.
So you promised us a new story. and you were upstairs and we
I
were
was
eating.
upstairs.
We were eating.
And I said, "Are you going to remember it?" Because you said, "I will save that for later."
You know what? I don't remember what that one was. Oh no, it was. No, I told the story. The
Oh,
story was about the group and Gus saying that women, it's hard to date women because they rule you out after one.
Oh, I did hear that. You did tell me that story before.
Oh, I did hear. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I didn't tell
That's
you
okay.
that story before.
I just want to add something else about our Chicago trips to her
Yeah.
cousins.
Yeah.
Well, just the last couple of years, it's like we're treated like king and queen over there. Because Jeannie has 4 boys, and one of them is at home still. The other 3 are kind of off with their own
families.
children. And Michael kind of like took over, because that was one of the reasons I loved going to Chicago, is that I would go there and I would help sous chef, and Carol would help Jeannie. And another reason I like going there is that Jeannie would make more pies than people.
Oh, there you go.
So that was always a good
Oh, yeah,
a good
and
trip.
Mike, her one son went to culinary school, so he's taken over most of the cooking
There you
now.
go.
So we've
Nice.
kind of been relegated to the, oh no, we'll do that
Yeah.
kind of position.
Which is sometimes very nice.
I've come to enjoy that. I've come to enjoy that.
It's not that you're a bad cook, because we all know you
Yes,
are a
we have had your
phenomenal
lasagna,
cook.
your chocolate pie. Yes, good stuff.
Yeah.
Good
So-
stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, she's pulling out the question.
So I have a couple questions. Can I ask you guys?
Sure.
Hold on, let me ask a question before you go
Yeah,
with your
go ahead.
fun questions.
These are the fun questions.
We'll have a serious question. So, Gus, Valentine's Day is next week, and some guys, not me, I'm pretty good at this too. I try. But there are guys out there, no names, people we know, that are looking for ideas like
How to be
do you do it?
romantic.
What's the
What romance?
yeah, how do you
What's-
figure out what's
what's the
romantic to
secret?
her? How do you figure out
Well, what's important to your spouse? What's important to your wife? I mean, we're all well established, so it's not like we need stuff,
Right.
You know. But what would she enjoy?
okay.
You know, like, I mean, just today I
What's
was
the
trying to
gesture?
ask Carol, because she loves being warm by the water, and I kind of asked the question that what's close by that we can drive at this time of year
Can
to
we
do
drive
that?
to the
And she
beach
said,
this year? No.
Ain't happening. There's nothing to do there.
There's
So
nowhere close to drive
know.
that's going to be warm right now.
yeah,
But that all goes back to the same thing of that being a good listener and being in tune with your spouse
very
and
much so. Yeah.
the caring about because I think that's the other thing. Like when we listen, when we really, really listen and hear them, it shows we care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More than anything else. And like, I think that's a huge part too. Just knowing that you really care what I say. You want to hear like the sitting in the kitchen is like, you want to hear the story. You want to know that because it's part of me.
Yeah. That's good.
What about you, Carol? What are you romantic? Do you woo Gus and sweep him off his feet? And
She just got to stand there.
Oh, come on.
I am so like, I really don't. Yeah, as long as I can stay awake when I'm horizontal, I'm fine. Because that window shut.
Oh, jeez.
Actually, last night I shouldn't laugh about this, but I will because I've told you guys this in the past. I mean, when I go horizontal, I'm falling asleep. I never have a problem falling asleep. Last night I literally fell asleep while I was praying.
Oh.
And
That's
Gus was
I
like,
don't know anybody that does that
Gus
half
was
the
like,
time.
"Wait, did you say Catherine?" I said, "Oh
Yeah.
yeah, Catherine." That woke me up. But Gus was like, he says, "Were you sleeping? I thought it was a really long pause."
Oh yeah, she'll be. I'm like, are you going to finish? Are you going to finish? Last night.
It's a good way to sleep.
Last
By
night we're there.
playing
I
together.
wasn't tired. We were in bed early. This was maybe 11 o'clock. And I said something about what was on TV. She goes, the dogs aren't even going to know anything about it. I'm like,
He's
number
like, "What
one,
did you
there are
say about
no
the
dogs in our room.
I'm
Like, what are you talking about? Dogs?
like, I didn't say that.
Yeah, then she's like, I didn't say that. Then when I get ready to turn the TV off, because we have an adjustable bed, so I put the bed down. She's like, are you going to pray? I'm like, you have been sleeping for 3 hours. There is no way you're going to know what anybody says, but it's worse when she's praying, and it's like, and I
We
am. I'm
take
like Gus. I'm
turns.
like hanging on the words. I'm like, are you just thinking about what
Do
you're
you
gonna
do
say?
that too? We take turns before bed.
We will.
I'll do one night, he does the next
We
night.
will take turns as well, but a lot of times Gus will go to bed before me, but then he wakes up to pray.
See, that's like what I do.
Well,
You sit
okay.
there,
I mean,
fall
not
asleep.
exactly the same.
Then I wake up
we're
and pray
together
with
and you
you.
fall asleep.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, it's okay.
Sometimes I wake you up. But yes, no, I agree. I agree.
All right, just
The
some
family that prays together stays together.
quick and what better way to fall asleep than talking to God?
Peaceful.
Really.
Absolutely.
It really is. I heard someone say that, like, oh, they always fall asleep, and someone else said, well, what more
Yeah,
peaceful way to drift off than when you're talking to your Lord?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Like,
That's good.
He's not going to be mad at you. He gets it.
That's good.
He gets it. Okay. What is the silliest nickname you've ever had, Carol?
Oh.
Actually, Gus for 25 years calls me Lovey.
Oh.
He calls, but this is
Like,
I
He
have a
looks kind
story
of like
about
Mr.
Lovey
Howell.
though. No, he just calls me Lovey for my Lovey, and that's how he signs every card.
Aw.
And yes, he does, and it's so prominent in the family, and that's how much Lauren spent time with us when she was little. That one time she was about 6 or 7, and she was sitting with her mother, and she was upset about something. We were there, and her mom says, "That's okay, Lovey. It'll be fine." She goes, "No." She points at me. "She's the Lovey."
That's so cute.
It's hilarious.
But he calls me Lovey, yeah. And I will refer to him as Gustafer.
Gustafer. I like that. That is cool. All right. We're going to ask this to Gus first because I've already heard one today.
Oh.
What is the weirdest food combination you've ever tried?
Oh.
Other than that, pancakes and
Onions and provolone and maple syrup.
Do you have another one for us?
Well, not in terms of staple that I would normally eat on
Right,
a regular
just try,
basis.
yeah.
But I've always wanted to try like turkey
Carol, the camera sees your face.
Sorry.
with rutabaga and hot sauce with provolone cheese.
He loves
some
provolone.
reason, that
I think he
sounds like
loves
something-
provolone.
Basically,
That's what I'm getting
you
out
can
of
put
it.
anything together. You throw the
Provolone.
provolone on top.
And the
He'll eat
hot
it.
sauce.
Probably.
Hot sauce is now his favorite condiment, yeah.
Okay, you did not disappoint. Like, I just, this is something I did not.
I thought we were going for a turducken, maybe. Or,
I got to tell you, even that got me. That even got me.
Well, now you know what to make for dinner tomorrow, Carol.
Actually, we are having turkey on Sunday, so
there you
well,
go.
maybe I'll throw that together for you on Monday.
Rutabaga.
Put it together, rutabaga.
Yeah.
Okay. Carol, do you have a weird one, or is it going to be unbelievably boring after
I am
Gus's?
unbelievably boring. I am not a food. Well, no, I ate reindeer.
Okay.
It wasn't
that's
weird, but
cool.
that's
No.
the weirdest
Because
thing
of where
I've
you
eaten.
were, right?
Yeah, when I was in Norway, I ate reindeer, and I ate a reindeer stew, and I ate reindeer hot dogs,
Oh,
which
that
were
sounds
surprisingly good.
Sounds delicious.
Yes.
Yeah, like Carol is very traditionalist when it comes to food. She's got to use a certain brand for certain things, certain spice combinations for things. And
Obviously, Gus is much
Yeah.
more adventurous.
He's so adventurous.
I'll try almost anything.
Yeah, he will.
She probably like eats mozzarella or
And
something.
that's also why she's a good cook.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. She has that
Tried and true.
consistency
Yeah.
Yeah.
when she cooks, so you know.
Yep.
You already know what it's
it always
gonna
tastes
taste
the
like.
same.
Yeah.
Once you get the right way, you're
Yep,
good.
that's it.
All right. Last question. We have time for one more.
Yeah, all the time in the world, baby.
All right. So I don't care who wants to start this one. Whoever thinks of the answer first. If you had to follow around one person for a week, who would it be and why? Not each other, because you know what each other does.
I think I know who you'll say.
Oh.
Ooh. Do you know who you'll say, guys?
Well, I have two people that I
All right. What are the two?
that. One is Victor Davis Hanson, and the other is Colonel Chris Wyatt.
Okay. And why?
Well,
Ding,
they're,
ding, ding.
they're very
Did you win?
I won.
Which one?
Chris Wyatt.
well.
Okay.
Basically, both of them come from a. Well, the ones our age is 70, and the other guy's only 60, but they both come from a very traditional, liberal education in that they wanted to learn everything. They wanted to learn a lot of foreign languages. Victor Davis Hanson spent, I think it was 3 years in Greece because he's a historian. He's written a lot about ancient Greece, a lot about the ancient Greek battles among the Greeks themselves, and also with foes that were trying to destroy Greece. Colonel Chris Wyatt is someone that grew up locally. He spent a year or two in Buffalo, in the Buffalo Public Schools.
Oh, okay.
So he's someone that has a very similar background to myself. He was in the military, 36-year veteran. He worked in the foreign corps. He spent, I believe he said, 30 years in Africa. He's worked in all kinds of places. He's also worked for the president. He's done a lot of work for AIDS reduction. A super competent individual that is a true patriot. The same can be said for Victor Davis Hanson. And so I believe these guys are role models. They would be great educators.
They wouldn't be boring, that's for sure.
No.
Yes.
They
So
definitely-
Yes.
interesting.
And it's sad that we don't have more people like them in public life. 'Cause
Yeah.
I believe things would be so much
Yeah,
better.
the stuff we see is not.
Okay. You're
It's
gonna,
just mind. No, I'm just saying it's
I
just
know, you're gonna take us
mind-numbing.
down
It's
a-
not like
yeah.
inspirational.
Yes,
No,
very much
right.
so.
Well, that
Yeah.
was a good answer and well thought out.
Yeah.
So now,
Yeah, she knew which one.
yes. So I would think it'd be funny if Carol said something like, I can't even think of someone who's completely opposite. I don't know.
Well, the fact
A
of
Kardashian or something.
Oh,
Like, I don't.
oh.
I know. I was just trying to think
Have
of
we
someone
met?
completely
Have we
opposite.
met?
Chloe,
I knew you
which
were
one?
going to, but I
Which
just thought it'd be
Kardashian?
really
Matt?
funny if you randomly said someone completely opposite.
No. Well, first,
Ours would be opposites.
My first thought is, I don't follow too many people. I'm more of a leader than a follower.
True,
That's
but
good.
learning from just walking around, observing.
I don't think it has to be anybody famous. I
No.
think it's. I would just like to follow someone around. You know who I would really to follow someone around and learn would maybe be Pastor Kelly.
Oh,
Because
That's
I mean,
cool.
she just, I don't want to say fascinates me, but I'm kind of, she just is one of those people who you can almost see the goodness around.
yes.
I've only met a few people like that in my life, and she's one of them. And I just,
It's funny that you guys, from what you said from the beginning of this, that you're both good listeners and that you're heard and stuff. Because Kelly, to me, is like when you have a conversation, it's kind of like you just know she's listening and caring and taking it all in. And
yes.
there's not many people like that in the world. You know what I mean? That
Yeah.
truly, you can, like you said, you can just feel it. You can
Yeah.
feel
Yeah.
the care in it and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, Kristen.
And she's my favorite hugger. And just for those of you who don't know, she's one of the pastors at our church. Go ahead.
So who would I hang around with? I follow.
Who you
I
follow?
just want to hear this because
I
something
think
immediately came to my
You
mind.
would follow Matthew McConaughey.
Oh,
No.
No, you don't think he
No.
would be fascinating and
I mean,
interesting?
he's
You
crazy
read
and
about
then-
him?
yeah,
Think it'd
he's
be wild?
crazy. I mean, it
I
would
thought
be-
you would. I thought you would find that really like he'd be really cool to follow. Okay, then who?
My guy in Niagara on the Lake.
Oh, yes,
There's this guy. He has a indigenous art store.
yeah. Kevin
He
loves
spent
it.
like 30 years in the Arctic with the Inuit people. And he, like, I just love to go in there and talk to him.
and he has a shop in Niagara on the Lake.
Yeah, yeah. Kevin goes
Really?
in there.
I
and
go in there
listens
every
to
time just to talk to
stories
him.
If he's
Like
there. He's not-
every time I stop there just to talk to him. And he, like,
They're really
yes,
cool, interesting.
he is just that same thing. Just
Gus, you would get involved in a
Oh, it's so
conversation
fu-
for like an
he's
hour.
amazing.
We're
He-
like, oh,
yeah, they leave.
Kevin's
They
in there.
leave me.
We
They
walk
leave me in the
out.
store and they're gone. And I'm
Yes.
just talking.
He loves it.
Wow.
Just someone to learn from. So,
What about you? Who would you follow around?
who would I follow?
Yeah. for a day? Who would you like to follow for a day?
Maybe I'd follow Tabby around because she never. But I don't know. She sleeps a lot. So that'd be.
You're just watching her sleep.
Oh, that would be good.
Because when you would be sleeping, she would be up. So that wouldn't really work too well for you.
She works with autistic kids, and I think that what she does all day long is fascinating and interesting. And I listen to her stories, and she's one of the most resilient people I know.
Yeah.
And not that there's more. There's
gotcha.
fascinating people in the world. She's
gotcha.
just the first person who popped in my head. I don't know. These type of questions, I really internalize and think about, and like have to get back to you.
That was kind of hard for me. I can't imagine anybody. If I was younger, I might have said I'd like to follow around the Beatles or something.
Right. Like I
But
would
I
have said
really
New Kids on the
can't-
Block.
I guess my perspective is now it's no, I don't.
But I like Gus's perspective of learning from someone.
Yeah.
Yes,
And that's,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And someone near and dear to me, like Tabby's my daughter, and she does have a fascinating job in my opinion, and how she interacts with these kids and brings them out of their shell and helps them just microwave a lunch, and that's such a huge win for them, and helps, so I think that would be really great to watch your daughter do that. So that's why I said her, but
I
there's
still
probably
think we
other
should go
people.
kill some polar bears and,
Okay. Well, it doesn't. You'd
Fun
probably
stuff.
follow this guy around, and he's going to go to work in his store and go back home. Like you might.
no,
not,
we're going up to meet the people
I mean, it
and
doesn't
grab some new
necessarily
stuff.
mean he's traveling.
Then it would be Joe Rogan.
Have you been to Joe Rogan? Have you been to Alaska?
Oh, we want to go. That's high.
We made it to Seattle.
That's probably like number
Our
one.
plane
on
was
my,
descending when the plane we were supposed to be on was taking off.
We missed the flight to Alaska. That's how close we came.
We would have
got
been
to
there.
Seattle, and the next flight was like
We only had
over
a couple
24
days.
hours, and we would have if we had
We would have been in
gotten
Alaska
on
for
the
less
next.
than 24
Yeah,
hours.
it would have been ridiculous. So we spent 3 days instead in Seattle and Portland, and
Yes, we
and
went to
it
Voodoo
was-
Donuts. That was
we
fun.
did.
Seattle's an interesting.
Yeah,
I
it
like
was very
Seattle. I mean,
interesting.
it
We
it
made a good
actually was
time of it.
not that rainy when we were there. The drive to Portland was awful. I mean, it was pouring. But like Seattle, we could see it was nice, and yeah, it was it definitely different.
Yeah.
the gum wall and
Yeah,
Throw in
I'd
the
been
fishes.
to California, but I'd never been, that far in the,
Yeah,
like
I
in
was
the Pacific
I was
Northwest.
surprised because when I was there years ago, it wasn't rainy either, and it was quite mild weather.
Yeah, you could see the mountains. It was beautiful.
Yeah,
we went on a ferry ride.
Yeah, to the in the
We checked out Kurt
What is that?
Cobain's house. We went to the first Starbucks.
went to Bruce Lee's grave.
So it wasn't a loss. Went to the
Fish
Grey's
market,
Anatomy
where they
houses.
throw the fish at the market.
Had a
Oh
had
yeah,
a
I saw the
sourdough
fish
bowl
market.
right on the saw all those sea lions. Remember that? Oh no,
San
that was San
Francisco.
Francisco. Getting all the trips confused.
But
All
yes,
right. Well, thank you guys so much for being on.
absolutely.
Thank you for
We
having us.
Adore you, and
Yes,
we
we
love
love you
that you
guys.
guys adore each other, and you're such an
yeah.
inspiration. Do you want to leave anyone with any thoughts for Valentine's Day?
final-
Any final love words
Love words.
from the lovebirds?
Just be intentional.
Yes.
Just be intentional towards your spouse. Sometimes all someone needs to realize is that somebody is paying attention to what you're saying, actually hearing what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is good because a lot of time we're just too worried about us, and we really are, and like we just don't even think we don't, and it's not even we don't even notice the things they're doing. I think that's the bigger thing. You can be going out of your way, but if you're not noticed, you're not going to want to keep doing that. You
Right.
know? So you're sabotaging yourself. You're like, oh, I want this, but you're not even paying attention to what you have, and I think that's a lot of people make that mistake.
Yeah.
Gus, what's your final?
Well, I think these like quote mandatory celebrations can lead to a lot of either resentment or disappointment
Yeah.
Yeah.
because everyone's trying to do something.
Expectations.
Yes, and it's almost like you don't enjoy yourself where you're in like
You
you're in
feel
a
the
great
pressure.
restaurant or something.
With a
But
million
there's
other
a
people.
million other
Yeah.
people there. So it's almost like take a break from that specific day,
Yeah.
but keep the essence of the holiday, of,
All
Yeah.
year.
yes. And
Yeah.
then, just do something relatively minor
Yeah.
on like
For each other,
Valentine's Day,
yeah.
and then decide, well, hey, let's go take a week and do this.
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah. And that's good. It's
let's,
like
let's do a day trip here.
Yeah,
that's like we
love
do.
it.
Joy.
We do it the date night. You can
Yeah.
because it's
Date
like
night's important.
number one. It is probably the worst day of the year to go eat, and it doesn't matter. It matter if it's 5-star or Chick-fil-A. They're all crowded.
Yes.
And if you try to get a reservation, it's almost impossible.
Well, we'll be home
They
this year.
up everything up because they have a
Yes.
special that.
Yeah.
And then if you go to buy roses, well, they've all been tripled in price.
We're supposed to be leaving
candy.
everyone with a love
I think
thought.
Gus is great. I think that is the love thought. Have it
Yeah.
all the time.
Have
Don't confine it to
Valentine's
one day.
Well, that's
every day.
That's why we actually sometimes fall short on those big days because we have been lucky enough. And I don't want to. I need to back us up here for a minute because at the time we met and the circumstances in which we met, it made that season. First of all, it's a wonderful season of life when you're first married, but because we had the hard stuff, most of the hard stuff was behind us when we met.
Yes. Yeah.
So
We were already knew who we were.
we
Yeah.
knew who we were. I'd already had children. They were out of the house. So we've been extremely lucky, and it's been a lot easier than it could have been.
Yeah.
I would like to think we'd be the same couple, but had we had some of the other challenges of raising a family and dealing with
Yeah. And
Yeah.
those
Might not have
growing
made it.
pains, we might not be the same people.
But you learn from that, right? And people can learn from you. And
yeah, absolutely. And I think that too, like with Gus and how he thought everything out and stuff.
He was very
If he was
intentional.
18, 20, 25, you don't think about, you still don't know who you are. You haven't figured that
Yeah,
stuff
we
out
would
yet.
if
So
we would have
that's-
met when we were that young, we would have never been together.
Yeah.
Like,
but again, you're different people.
Yeah.
oh yeah, like I always told Carol, I said if we met in our early 20s, we would have probably hated each other.
That's awesome. But
Well, you
yeah,
were a
God is
smoker. I would have
good.
never
Look at
dated you.
Oh,
at you
you were
guys.
a
Yeah.
smoker.
Oh, he was a smoker and a
horrible
drinker.
Oh, my goodness.
Gus used to go to the bar every day and smoke 2 packs of cigarettes a day.
That's why you didn't have a girl.
Probably. Who the hell wants to date that?
And with that, we will say
Yeah,
Happy Valentine's
That's it. Happy
Day.
Valentine's
Happy Valentine's Day.
Like, subscribe. We'll see you guys next week.
Love you. Bye.